This is Texas News Now, sponsored by Germania Insurance.
In Austin, I'm Mark Mullins. We continue to follow the investigation into a deadly mass shooting in downtown Austin early Sunday morning. This happened outside of Buford's Bar on West 6th Street. Investigators say a suspect used a pistol and a rifle to shoot at people outside the bar. At least 14 patients were located at the scene and taken to nearby hospitals, and 2 victims were pronounced dead at the scene Sunday morning. The shooter was shot and killed by police. He has been identified as 53-year-old Indiaga Diagni. He was shot and killed by Austin police, and authorities have been searching his home. We've obtained cell phone videos showing the moments Austin police shot and killed the suspect. The video is graphic, and we're about to show you an edited version. Take a look. You just heard some of the gunshots as police shot and killed the West 6th Street shooting suspect. The suspect is on the left side of the screen in the cell phone video, and police approach him from the right. Several shots are fired. Within seconds, the shooter is down. The person who recorded that video, Nathan Como, says that he was out celebrating his friend's 21st birthday at Buford's Bar. He says the place was packed shoulder to shoulder with other UT students. He left and walked across the street just minutes before the shooting. Como says he heard the first round of fire and wasn't exactly sure if it was gunshots or a motorcycle. But by the second round, he was thankful to see police.
Yeah, and with the second round, he was walking towards me. He was walking back towards Buford's. So I'm really grateful the police got there in time. I mean, I was sitting there like a sitting duck eating my pizza. I didn't know he was coming. It could have been really bad for me and for hundreds of people holed up in Buford's. So.
Como says a friend of his is one of the 14 hurt in the shooting. Thankfully, he was released from the hospital. And police and federal agents zeroed in on a home in Pflugerville linked to the shooter. Investigators search for a motive behind the early morning shooting in downtown Austin. Neighbors saw law enforcement, including SWAT and ATF, barge into this street and start their investigation. Officials took boxes and other items from inside that house. We did not see anyone detained, but we did see officials questioning people. We were able to speak with a neighbor who says it was surprising to hear loud demands being shouted right outside of her front door.
We were like out and we saw these police officers, so many cars, and then so we were really scared for some time, and then the news came out, and yeah, it was very scary at that moment.
This neighbor says she didn't really see a lot of activity at this specific house, and she was not aware of this investigation, that it was in connection to the shooting on West 6th Street. After we informed her, she was at a loss for words because of how quiet and family-friendly her neighborhood is. Black History Month wrapped up over the weekend, and one nonprofit is ending the celebration by unveiling 2 large murals in East Austin. They're located at the nonprofit Foundation Community's new affordable housing complex. KVU's Jose Alonso shows us how this rapidly changing part of the city will forever remember the East Austin Trail Riders.
Standing 4 stories tall are murals depicting Black culture and history within East Austin. Both former members of the East Austin Trail Riders like
Horace Paul Williams,
a military veteran who Selton P. Williams considers an uncle after knowing him for 30 years before his death.
He was very instrumental in bringing us together. He started the Buffalo Soldier organization in Austin. The purpose of the Buffalo Soldiers is to educate people on the history of the Black soldiers.
And current members of the Trail Riders like Dennis J. Milligan.
We're trying to make sure that it be acknowledged that we're here. We're here to stay, and the lot that I'm on been here since '85, so we kind of like grandfather clause in. But here recently they've been coming with zoning, they try to figure out a way to make moves without saying a word. But as far as I'm concerned, we're gonna be here.
Milligan says this part of the city is rapidly changing, but he's glad their culture is being honored, alongside other notable ways, like being the mascot for Norman Sims Elementary School.
We were riding, me and probably like 9 or 10 of my friends riding in the principal's den at the school, stopped us and was like, which I like to be the mascot. So we volunteered, and every year we come up here for the kids, let the kids see the horse, touch the horse, give them knowledge of the horses.
The Towering Art is a 5-week-long collaboration between Tony Artizone and the nonprofit Foundation Charities, painted on the side of the new affordable housing complex named Norman Commons.
I thought it would be a great opportunity to learn about the trail riders, that they wanted the Black equestrian culture to be the theme of the murals. This is Bill Pickett behind me. So Bill Pickett kind of starts it like chronologically, and then you kind of carry over to the other mural to the contemporary riders.
The riders of today, who may not have the landscape East Austin used to be, but they're turning their culture into Central Texas education.
It's beautiful just to see that and sitting there, people recognize that. This is his picture during the end of Black History Month.
The nonprofit says these decorated complexes depicting Black history could be your next home, specifically if you're looking for affordable housing and community resources. Norman Commons Apartments is now leasing to low-income residents who meet their requirements. We'll have more details on our web article that's on kview.com. Reporting in studio, Jose Alonso, KView News.
Well, the city of Austin is honoring a local legend who made his impact both on and off the baseball diamond. City officials unveiled the renamed Don Baylor Neighborhood Park in West Austin. It used to be the Westonfield Neighborhood Park. His family says as a kid, Baylor was not allowed at the park because of segregation. Now they hope it's a reminder of Don's experiences to help make Austin what it is today.
As we close out Black History Month today, let's not forget the daily struggles that Don and others of his generation faced growing up in Austin. My hope is that all visitors to this park will look at the marker about Don, gain some knowledge about his life's challenges and successes, and appreciate what Don stood for.
And the Austin native was an American League MVP and a World Series champion, but his contributions go far beyond the baseball diamond. KVU's Michael Courier shows what this means to his family.
You know, whenever we would either drive down Winstead or drive on Infield, he would point to that park, you know, as a symbol of Jim Crow.
As a child, growing up in Austin's Clarksville neighborhood, Don Baylor wasn't welcome here.
He lived on the other side of the railroad tracks, what is now Mopac, and was really not allowed to play here by the local residents. And they essentially got chased away. So that was something that, you know, he always stuck with him. And
years later, Baylor went from Austin High to a 19-year big league career. But his son says this hometown honor would have meant just as much.
I think it would be a full circle moment for him. It would probably be one of his biggest achievements, you know, in addition to, you know, winning MVP, Manager of the Year. This would be, you know, right up there.
To fans, he was fearless at the plate.
He was extremely competitive. There was someone who said after he passed away that he was the nicest guy you ever met, except on the baseball field.
But at home,
I mean, he was extremely generous. He was extremely respectful. He was a man of faith, but also a huge family man.
And more than anything, he believed in hard work.
He had a lot of God-given ability, but he also worked extremely hard. He wanted to play every day, and so he never wanted to really take a day off.
That resilience defined his life, from experiencing racism as a child to losing 2 World Series in heartbreaking fashion.
When you get knocked down, you get back up, and that's just the way he was wired.
Now his name will stand in a place where he once wasn't allowed to play.
And we're glad to see it. Michael Courier with that report. In Austin, I'm Mark Mullins.
Let's take a look at today's headlines from Houston. I'm Trayson Bragg. Houston residents are reacting this weekend after U.S. strikes in Iran following the death of the country's supreme leader. Orko Mana shows us how emotions ran high between supporters and protesters in the Galleria area.
Tonight, members of the Iranian community in Houston are grateful for the American military intervention in Iran, but as they took to the streets here in celebration, so did another group which fears that this could mean all-out war in the Middle East. Tensions rising tonight between 2 groups of protesters, getting police involved as emotions run high in the wake of the military strikes against Iran. On one side, the Iranian community, which is cheering and chanting in celebration. They say they've waited for decades for the regime in their home country to be challenged. What did that mean to you to see that?
This means a lot to us. We are so happy.
This woman left Iran 35 years ago and has prayed every day since then for this moment.
Hearing that the terrorist leader of Iran has been killed, and all the people related to him will be killed very soon. That's what we wanted forever.
Now they're more optimistic about Iran's future than ever before.
This is the first time I feel my country has a voice to raise. Finally, we're out of the basically suppression of a very terrible dictatorship.
But just across the street,
no war with Iran!
Dozens of other protesters are speaking out against President Trump's decision to get involved.
Because the United States, which is my country, has a very long history of destruction. We always destroy. At the end of the day, there is destruction.
It's insane that another war starts just because this dementia, pedophile, brutal president of the United States decides that.
The Iranian Americans I spoke with say they don't see this as a war, they see this as the liberation of a nation. They plan to hold another demonstration here tomorrow. Reporting from the Galleria area, Orko Manna, KHOU 11 News.
Orko, thank you. Waymo's driverless taxis are now on Houston streets, but some residents are already noticing problems. In the Fifth Ward, people say the cars get stuck at train crossings or roll in groups, slowing traffic. Katia Winfrey is getting answers from the company.
These newly rolled out self-driving Waymo cars covered in cameras are intriguing for people who live in the Fifth Ward. But for Art Smith, the thrill is already fading.
Now I'm starting to question that due to the fact of it's too many.
All day, he says these vehicles pass through, sometimes individually, but also in packs. He says he knew this was coming, but is shocked to see no drivers, but typically no passengers either.
I was at Lowndes and Johnson Drive, and there was actually 5 of them sitting at the light, back to back, like soldiers.
So days ago, when he saw the backup again at Lyons in St. Elmo, he picked up his phone.
See that one right there? Ain't nobody in there.
He says it's happened enough times already that he wanted to spread the word.
Y'all see it? If we going live discussing and talking about it, it's like, oh, okay. But when the news cameras come out, such as yourself, you know, it's going to bring a different attention to it.
Similar images like these taken by Octavia Johnson at the Houston Chronicle have been reported at a rail crossing near Gregg. KHOU reached out to Waymo about the lines and volume of cars. In a statement, Waymo in part said, while routing to and from our operations depot nearby, some vehicles have been stopped at the Gregg Street Railroad crossing while trains pass, which can sometimes take more than an hour. We have since made adjustments to our operations to minimize the need to use this crossing and believe it should help avoid further congestion. Smith tells me transportation is desperately needed in this community, and so the clarity is appreciated and welcomes more improvement. Now he's hopeful that initial thrill returns.
It started out as being exciting and intriguing on what's going on out here in the community, and more individuals gonna be able to get some wheels.
Reporting in Houston, Katira Winfrey, KHOU 11 News.
Katia, thank you. This school year is ending with big changes in HISD. Leaders have voted to close 12 schools, a decision the district calls necessary, but many parents and teachers say they're frustrated. Orko Manna has the story.
Had your warning, please leave the meeting.
Tense moments last night as the HISD Board of Managers unanimously approved the closure of 12 schools. District leaders say it's a necessary financial decision, also citing low enrollment. But critics say the impacted schools are largely in minority communities. That includes Burris Elementary in Independence Heights.
I have 6 kids, so all my kids came here.
This parent is worried about what happens next.
It's really bad, you know. It's a really good school. It's really good teachers.
This is such a slap in the face to the community.
Karina Ortiz with the Houston Federation of Teachers says she's already hearing from educators about class size concerns.
Have teachers at the receiving schools spoken to you about what this could mean for their campuses?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're going to see numbers skyrocket. Some of these classrooms were already at capacity, 22, 23 kids. And now you're asking them to basically take in more kids.
I reached out for an interview with Superintendent Mike Miles to ask about specifics, but the district only referred me to their press release from last night, which says in part HISD will implement a comprehensive transition plan to support affected students, families, and staff. I was also sent to their website, which says HISD will carefully manage enrollment to maintain appropriate class sizes. Regarding transportation for relocated students, HISD says options will be shared with families as part of the transition planning process. That's too vague for Ortiz, who's worried about families who will fall outside the bus route zones.
They walk their kids to school. Is that going to be an option now when some of these schools, they're having to cross major thoroughfares? It's just, it's a fiasco.
Orko, thank you. Now that's a wrap of your Houston headlines. I'm Trace and Bragg.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
What's good, Lone Star State? It's your boy, meteorologist Jordan Darensburg here in Austin, Texas, the baddest city in the state. And we're going to be among the hottest in the state of Texas as well as we head through Tuesday, getting to 87 in the 512 before those storm chances arrive for the middle portion of the week. Also, the Triple D, Dallas-Fort Worth, y'all are going to be dealing with some of those storms as well. Waco, same story, as well as maybe the Houston area, but you're not going to get a whole lot of that strong storm activity like what our homies in the DFW as well as maybe even San Antone might be involved in as well. Here's your setup. We're going to have an area of high pressure that's going to keep us nice and dry as we head through most of the day on Monday as well as Tuesday. We are going to start off with a little bit of low pressure making its way towards us as we head through Tuesday. And it's this area of low pressure that's starting to weaken a little bit. And that's what's going to give us a good chance for a few more of those storms. But we're tracking a second trough of low pressure over portions of the Pacific Northwest. That's going to sink on down, and that's going to give us our storm chances for this weekend. Now let's go hour by hour and day by day here. This is Monday, and it does show mostly dry conditions. Temperatures getting close to 80 in a lot of places. In fact, we'll be in the low to mid 80s in a lot of areas, especially back in the Big Country and Concho Valley. Maybe even getting to 90 right there along the Rio Grande in Laredo. But then watch this as we head through Wednesday as that upper level low moves through. We're going to have a front drop in that's not going to totally make its way through the Lone Star State. It might just pause through portions of the Permian Basin as well as the Concho Valley and Big Country. Could have a few of those scattered storms that are possible, and some of those could be on the strong side as well. Now, as we head through Thursday, this is 7:30 on your Thursday morning. Places like Austin, maybe even the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex could be seeing some of those storms as well. And then as we head through Friday, we've got another round, but we don't expect these to be as strong as the storms we expect for Wednesday. When all is said and done, a lot of us are in quite a bit of a drought, and I will say Dallas, you might be lucking out according to this particular model. You might be getting a little over an inch of rain. Some areas could get pockets of 2 to 3 inches, but I'm kind of thinking, hoping that some random Canadian curler meme would come in and just kind of poke a lot of the heaviest rain from Oklahoma back into the Lone Star State, because that would alleviate our drought situation a little further. Now, the severe threat, it's mostly going to be around 15% over the next 4 days, but by the time we get into the day on your Tuesday especially, we're going to have a better idea of what the storm threats are going to be, especially throughout portions of the Lone Star State, including sections of Central Texas. But West Texas, y'all are going to be mostly dry for the most part, and some of the hottest spots on Monday will be El Paso. We also have lower 80s throughout Central Texas, including 81 Waco, 80 out in Gillespie County. South Texas, y'all are going to be the hottest spots. Laredo might might get to the low 90s. Again, lower 80s on Monday for the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but we're watching the storm chances on Wednesday in portions of East Texas as well as North Texas, and then on into sections of Central Texas as well, and maybe even places like San Antonio could have a few of those scattered storms. Houston might just have a few light showers, but we're going to watch for the rest of the week for places like Tyler as well as the entirety of Central Texas. So the Texas Triangle especially should really watch out for some of those stronger storms for the middle and latter portions of the week.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
I'm Vanessa Croy, and here's your news in San Antonio. A woman is killed after losing control of her car and plunging off an overpass north of downtown. Police say the driver of a Honda was heading west on Elmira Street, that's near North Main Avenue, when, for unknown reasons, the car drifted off the road, jumped the curb, and kept going. Investigators say the car then plunged off the street, falling onto the lower level of the southbound lanes of 35. First responders rushed to the scene, but they say the 27-year-old woman did not survive her injuries. The cause of that crash is still under investigation. New details after a deadly shooting at a West Side bus stop. We've learned a Dilley police officer rushed in to take down the gunman. According to Dilley PD, the officer was working an off-duty assignment on Friday at a nearby restaurant off West Commerce Street. The officer heard gunshots, raced to the scene, and confronted the accused shooter. She then called 911 and helped render aid to the victim. San Antonio police say the violence unfolded as two men were seen arguing at that bus stop. Detectives say the suspect then pulled out a gun and shot the other man multiple times. That man died at the hospital less than an hour later. Dilley PD says the officer has been with the department for 7 months. For the first time, we're hearing from the attorney representing the family of the San Antonio man shot and killed by an ICE agent last year. The details of Ruben Ray Martinez's death were kept under wraps for almost a year. That is until a watchdog nonprofit uncovered ICE documents about the shooting. On Wednesday, a grand jury in Texas chose not to indict any agents involved. KENS 5 reporter Megan Reyna explains what the family is now asking for.
Rachel Reyes, the mother of Ruben Ray Martinez, chose to stay silent on her son's case until now.
We knew of an officer-involved shooting in South Padre Island. We had no idea it involved an ICE agent or agents.
We didn't go to the media when perhaps we could have. And that was out of respect for law enforcement in the process.
Speaking on her behalf is attorney Butch Hayes, who was hired back in September by the family to help gain closure.
What happened? What happened in the seconds prior to those gunshots, and how did they treat Ruben after that?
On March 15th of last year, Martinez drove up on a car crash scene in South Padre Island. Assisting local law enforcement with traffic were ICE agents. DHS claims Martinez failed to follow law enforcement commands and hit an agent with his car, resulting in another agent shooting and killing Martinez. But the passenger in the car, Joshua Orta, disputes those claims, stating in a written statement Martinez never hit anyone. However, Orta died over the weekend in a car crash in San Antonio.
And the last thing that happened in Ruben Martinez's life, the very last thing, was that he managed to put the car completely in stop, which is where it was when the initial officer had the conversation with him. And as he's being shot, he's telling this officer, "I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir."
On Wednesday, a grand jury heard the case and declined to indict anyone involved. It's unclear what evidence they were shown, including Orta's accounts of what happened. But Hayes says this doesn't change their mission, which is to find out the truth.
We have always wanted video, always wanted the video. We understand that there's video out there.
Joining in on that call for evidence is Congressman Joaquin Castro. He wrote this letter Thursday to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem and the Director of the Texas Department of Public Safety.
The family is willing to live with what the videos show. Is DHS willing to live with that?
Megan Reyna, KINS 5.
We've submitted open records requests for video or other documents in the case, and we're still waiting for a response. KINS 5 spoke with military veteran and Bexar County Commissioner Grant Moody about the developing situation in Iran. Moody is a lieutenant colonel with the Marine Reserves, and while he hasn't yet received a call to action, he tells us he's ready to go.
No one wants a long, protracted war, but there are ways to use military force to make the world a safer, better place and protect our national interests around the world.
We also spoke to sisters Tarani and Mushkan, who both fled Iran to come to the U.S. as refugees, and tell us they haven't yet been back to their home country.
Nobody would believe that this is going to happen, and after 47 years of oppression, the head of the snake was gone, and it was unbelievable.
The sisters also say that many like themselves have built a life of exile as refugees in the U.S. They say they believe the future is bright for Iran and everyone in the Middle East. And protests opposing the attack have been unfolding across the country, including right here in San Antonio. Dozens of people gathered outside City Hall on Saturday, voicing their concerns about the possibility of the U.S. entering a war. And that's your news here in San Antonio.
Here, headlines from Southeast Texas, I'm Ebony Coleman. Many drivers on I-10 were stuck in standstill traffic for hours from 2 separate incidents on the Purple Heart Memorial Bridge. It started with a trash truck hitting an overhead sign structure, causing it to fall down. Children's reporter Spencer Plato spoke to one driver who was stuck in the traffic for about 6 hours, missing a full day of work.
It is what it is. I mean, ain't nothing we can do about it except wait.
Cars stretched for miles along I-10. Bumper to bumper, as many drivers stepped out of their vehicles, just waiting.
You see the cars behind me. It's standstill. I'll turn around and you can see this way. You can see where it's just stopped, but nothing is moving.
The gridlock started around 9:30 in the morning when a trash truck struck an overhead sign structure on the Purple Heart Memorial Bridge. The impact forced all 3 main westbound lanes to close while crews worked to remove the damaged sign. Drivers like Roy Munnerlin say the wait felt never-ending.
I've been out here since 10:30. I've run out of gas for truck. I'm hungry. I haven't had nothing to eat. So yeah, it's I don't know what to do.
With his gas tank running dry, he turned off his engine and stepped outside.
I can't sit here and idle the truck, so I just pull it over the side and just wait, I guess. But it's a lot cooler standing outside than it is sitting inside.
Other drivers did the same.
You see people, you can see people that are all out of the vehicles, we're just all sitting around trying to stay cool.
Still, he says he understands why the traffic had to be stopped, but it cost him an entire day of work.
I mean, it's a safety concern. You can't just, let people barrel through there. I'd like to know the name of the company that caused this. That way I can send them a bill.
In that same traffic, DPS says a man driving a Ford pickup failed to stop and hit the back of a box truck. That box truck then ran into a semi-trailer that was stopped. DPS confirms the driver of that Ford was pronounced dead at the scene. He has now been identified as 34-year-old James Shellnut from Port Arthur. The driver of the semi and box truck were not injured. And a Jasper captain's quick actions help crews get 2 fires under control along FM 2800. That's according to a news release. Captain Jack Armstrong Sr. was driving west near the Sweetbriar Apartments when he spotted smoke and fire in 2 separate areas on the north side of the highway. He contacted the Jasper Police Department and crews from the Beech Grove Volunteer Fire Department. They responded along with the Texas A&M Forest Service. Both fires were put out. And Groves police say they are on the hunt for a man they say attempted to kidnap a girl. Police say it happened in the 52,000 block of 32nd Street. Grove City Marshal Christopher Robbins says the girl had been dropped off after school when an older white man, who police say was in his 60s with gray hair and a goatee, began talking to her from his truck. At one point, he allegedly reached out to try and grab her arm, but another driver stopped and yelled at him, scaring the suspect away. The girl made it home safely and later reported the incident to police. Now investigators are working to find the man. And the city of Port Neches honored former Mayor Glenn Johnson by officially renaming part of Park Street as Mayor Johnson Way. The ceremony happened at Port Neches Park and Covers Park Street between Grisby Avenue and Merriam Street. City leaders approved the renaming earlier this month and unveiled the new sign. Johnson served 3 terms on city council before becoming mayor in 2002. He remained mayor until his death in October of 2025.
It's in honor of all of the service that he has given to the city over the last 32 years, actually. 23 years as mayor, 9 years as council member. So it's kind of in his honor because of all the service and everything that he done for the city.
Community members, city leaders, and supporters gathered to celebrate Johnson's legacy. And a Beaumont man who was sentenced to 10 years probation for indecency with a child and aggravated assault was back in court amid allegations he violated his probation. The state says Billy Woolley had contacted his victim and used social media, both of which are a violation of his probation. His attorney asked for a 3-week delay before moving forward, and Judge Stevens allowed 1 week but denied a request to release Woolley on bond until that hearing. And those were your headlines from Southeast Texas.
I'm Adriana Alexander. Here are your headlines from Central Texas. A major change could be coming to 2 struggling elementary schools in Waco. The Waco ISD School Board just voted to approve a proposal that would bring in an outside agency to run South Waco and Dean Highland Elementary Schools. Here's 6 News anchor Adrian Carbajal.
Waco ISD is looking to partner with an outside organization to prevent a TEA takeover of 2 of its schools. The school board voted in favor of moving forward with contract negotiations with Third Future Schools.
We decided that it was best to make this decision now to ensure that we maintain local control.
The decision came after South Waco and Dean Highland Elementary campuses received consecutive failing grades under the state's accountability system.
Have them work with 2 of our campuses here in Waco ISD. And then while they work at those campuses, I'm able to continue working with the rest of our campuses to ensure academic excellence.
Waco ISD Superintendent Dr. Tiffany Spicer says under the proposal, Third Future would bring its own curriculum and staffing model. That means changes could be noticeable on campus.
So it might look a little bit different, but what I do know is this: then we'll have the opportunity to hear from Third Future Schools. They will come to the campuses. They will talk to our staff. They will talk to our families, and they will educate them on how they lead their processes and their systems and how the communication works.
Spicer acknowledges the decision may feel uncertain for some in the community, but says the alternative, a potential state takeover, would remove local control altogether.
Sometimes these are hard conversations and hard decisions, but at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we're doing right by the students that sit in seats across the whole system.
Even if Third Future assumes operational control, Spicer emphasized the schools will remain a part of Waco ISD.
So the best way I could say it, they're still Waco ISD schools, period. Our trustees will still have the same opportunities as well. They're still our parents. They're still our students. They're still our facilities, right?
Now, Superintendent Spicer says the district hopes to finalize contract details and bring them back to board for approval towards the end of March. If approved, the partnership could begin as early as this fall. So who is Third Future Schools? Well, it's a Colorado-based nonprofit. Third Future Schools works with 6 Texas school districts and is the only provider with more than 1 partnership. The group estimates it will add 10 to 12 more partnerships within the next year. Killeen and Waco ISD have both announced plans to work with Third Future. Right now, we don't know yet how much it will cost. According to our sister station, WFAA, it costs one North Texas school $375,000 a month. Both Central Texas school districts still need to finalize a contract before the partnership takes over. And it marked the end of early voting Friday, and we're hearing from Central Texans about what issues impacted their vote for the primaries. Bell County is on track to beat voter turnout for the 2024 primary with more than 28,000 early voters. McLennan County has gotten more than 18,000 voters, and Corio County has gotten nearly 5,000 voters. Some people tell us they hit the polls specifically to vote for the U.S. Senate race. Others were drawn by local elections, but most voters share the same message. Regardless of who you're voting for, it's time to seize the opportunity to make your voice heard.
We're pretty old now, and we've been voting since we were 21, and now we're 80 years old. And my dad fought for this country in World War II, and we never miss an election because the price of freedom is not free.
And now we are 2 days away from Election Day, and we have an entire voting guide for us available on our website, kcentv.com. Where to vote, what's on the ballot, and everything else you'll need. And those are your headlines from Central Texas.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
I'm Teresa Woodard in Dallas with a look at your North Texas headlines. Hemp stores all across the state are in limbo. Their licensing fees could get more than 100 times higher, and many say that would force them to shut down. Cole Sullivan explains.
For a business built on highs, lately it's been up and down.
Your product's banned, then it's not banned, and then they're trying to ban it again, so it's just like an up and down for us.
Now Eddie Velez finds himself in limbo once again. Texas has proposed new rules that raise licensing fees for hemp and THC businesses like his.
From $150 to $20,000 on an annual basis that we will have to pay.
Devastating for his shop.
That essentially shuts us down.
And he says a rule changing how THC content is measured will wipe out most of the products his customers enjoy.
If you try to get to compliancy, you reduce your potency to pretty much nothing, and when you grow in the plant, it makes it damn near impossible.
There are supporters of the new rules, like the group Texans for Safe and Drug-Free Youth, which says, quote, it's fair and appropriate for the people who profit from selling $1 billion in intoxicating products to create fees that help cover the costs associated with the regulation and societal burden of the product. But most of the speakers at a hearing in Austin last month were against the proposal.
I'm optimistic that the state's hearing our comments.
Even though Velez sells relaxation, he's having a tough time finding it.
I'm not going to lie, it's stressful and creates anxiety because as a business owner, we really don't have clarity on our future.
State regulators say they'll make a decision by March 30th. In Dallas, I'm Cole Sullivan.
The newest athletic director in North Texas has big shoes to fill. Salina ISD's incoming athletic director is replacing a legendary football coach who stepped down when his son was accused of taking photos of young athletes. Jobin Puniker spoke with the new AD about how to move forward.
Every new job transition is different, especially true for Salina's newest athletic director, Brent Whitson.
The biggest challenge here is regaining public trust.
He is replacing Bill Elliott, who was here 33 years, retired after a chaotic few months, where his son was charged with sex crimes in his role as a former middle school coach.
I'm semi-famous for having said it too many times. I'm going to take care of kids, job one. Take care of kids every day. Job two, we're going to go to work regaining their trust. And we're going to do that by being in front of them.
Brent will not also be the head football coach. The district has split that role, and Brent likes it that way.
Did Bill Elliott reach out to you? No, not yet. I'm going to reach out to him. I'm going to thank him for setting up a phenomenal situation and for, in the athletic department, leaving me the keys to an Escalade.
There is no escaping the dark cloud that hangs over athletics and Salina. Brent says he understands that.
Any decision I make that's not in the best interest of the kid is a mistake. There's that balance between privacy and safety and supervision. Well, I've got to tell you something. Safety and supervision are going to win.
And that goes for especially what happens in locker rooms, in classrooms, and on the field. Brent says he is not his predecessors, but will fight to keep a winning tradition, especially as Salina moves from 4A to 5A this year.
Half the people in this town are throwing arrows at me and half of them are blowing kisses. I have to figure out who's what, and at the end of the day, get them all to at least respect me.
His official start is in late March, but he's already taking coaches' meetings, and he's looking for his next head football coach.
Who is Salina ISD getting in an AD?
Lisa's husband, Tanner and Carter's dad, and that governs every decision I make. And that's a pretty heavy burden to carry.
In Salina, I'm Jobin Puniker.
Now, Bill Elliott's son Caleb is facing federal charges of sexually exploiting children. Caleb Elliott was arrested on state charges 4 months ago and charged in November. He taught history and coached at Moore Middle School, and he is accused of taking invasive photos in the boys' locker room. Salina ISD fired him after his arrest. An independent investigation concluded no staff members were aware of the alleged misconduct, including Bill Elliott, who was AD at the time. The legendary rock band The Eagles just announced a concert at Globe Life Field this May, but that means one North Texas high school is being forced out on the night of their prom. Richard Solomon spoke with students in limbo.
They worked so hard for this. Students competing in the Northwest Texans Invitational. But for these Eaton Eagles, there's another date circled on their calendar, and that's May 16th.
I was pretty excited, I had a date and everything.
Senior John Lindsay says prom was supposed to be one of the highlights of his final year. But Thursday, something unexpected got in the way. And it wasn't homework.
It's just unfortunate. We didn't know.
Northwest ISD says they were contracted to host Eaton's prom at Globe Life Field. But then a bigger act swooped in. Welcome to the Hotel California. The Eagles, the legendary rock band, just announced a concert at the stadium on the exact same day.
It looks unprofessional on the venue's part because we had our contract a year ago.
And it's left Guardian Birds very unhappy.
It's super disappointing. I mean, logistically, you should be able to plan the prom dates appropriately.
It's been a year. We've been planning this the whole time we toured, but it's a big deal.
The district says they've had a contract with the venue for the last year, which cost them more than $21,000. The principal said in a statement they learned about the news through promotional emails for the concert. And a spokesperson with Globe Life told WFAA they're working with school officials to schedule a new date for the school's prom at the stadium.
Some sort of accommodations need to happen. I mean, luckily there is enough time and space.
If the Eagles performed a little bit for the Eagles, and that'd be awesome.
I mean, I never heard of them. It would be cool to have a live performance.
Because this is supposed to be one of the best days of their lives up to date. And they're determined to not let anything or anyone clip their wings. In Justin, I'm Richard Solomon.
If you drive 75 miles west of Fort Worth, you can enjoy thousands of acres of trails along with rivers, trees, wildlife. It all used to be a ranch, but it has been transformed into Palo Pinto Mountain State Park. And Scoop Jefferson got a look at all it has to offer.
For the first time in more than 2 decades, a brand new state park opening in North Texas. Sunday, March 1st, opening day. And Assistant Superintendent James Miller and his crew at Palo Pinto Mountain State Park have watched ticket sales explode.
So we're booked out, I think, solid through the month of March, most of April, and we're going to be pretty busy.
Park volunteers have stocked the shelves in the souvenir shop, hats, t-shirts, water bottles, and more. And nature lovers reserving campsite spots like this one throughout the park. Work crews are busy completing last-minute details to make sure the long-awaited state park is ready, especially Tucker Lake, 90 acres of water. Visitors urged to use caution.
Swimming is allowed. We obviously don't have any lifeguard on duty or anything like that, so be swim at your own risk.
Miller believes Tucker Lake will be one of the major draws, a quiet fishing and paddling destination. The dock features this state-of-the-art easy launch deck for kayaks and canoes. No speedboats or jet skis allowed.
So we don't allow gasoline motors. We want to try and keep the place quiet, tranquil.
You'll easily find that quietness and tranquility in the park's nearly 5,000 acres of rolling hills.
So we've got roughly 16 miles of trails, and those are pretty much all multi-use.
The park is also kid-friendly, featuring a playground built to Americans with Disabilities Act standards, the same accessibility seen throughout the grounds.
We've sold out of day passes, sold out of campsites, so have a little patience with us.
Assistant Superintendent James Miller is asking people to be patient because day passes are sold out. Still, they're welcoming people when the park opens on March 1st. In Palo Pinto County, I'm Scoop Jefferson.
Those are your headlines from North Texas.
Hello, I'm Robert De La Garza, and here's some of your East Texas headlines. A terrifying scene unfolded high above Longview when 2 people were left suspended more than 900 feet in the air, waiting for rescue. CBS 19's Nayeli Carrillo takes us to Gregg County, where hundreds of eyes were glued to the sky as firefighters worked to bring them down safely.
A stunned and nearly silent crowd gathered outside a Gregg County gas station Saturday morning.
That's the most craziest thing I've ever seen.
For a community used to seeing the occasional hot air balloon drifting overhead, spotting one tangled near the top of a 1,000-foot radio tower was enough to make drivers pull over and watch.
Our community is also really close, so I think everyone's just really wanting to make sure everyone's okay. And a lot of the balloonists live here too. We have a lot of hometown pilots.
According to officials, rescue crews began climbing shortly before 9 in the morning.
And we ended up having 14 guys on the tower, so we had to not only get up, extricate the patients out of the basket of the balloon into the tower, but then hand them off rope by rope down the multiple pitches or sections down the tower.
Within 4 hours, the 2 people stuck in the hot air balloon were safely on the ground.
And I'm just really thankful, and I know a number of the other guys climbing with me are thankful to the Lord for the safety He gave us.
Jeff Ashby, whose father was very involved in the hot air balloon community, says he can't imagine what the 2 people were feeling as they waited for rescue.
That's got to be terrifying. I would have probably passed out in fear.
Stephen Winchell with the Longview Fire Department says the people rescued had been ballooning for a very long time and were very cooperative and helpful.
I think they were very relieved, especially once they get clipped in and get to the tower. The tower still is high, but it feels a little bit more like a ladder instead of dangling in a little swinging basket. So I think they were very relieved at those pieces, and in general, I think they were just doing what they needed to do, calm and cooperative, and they're probably processing more emotions now that they're on the ground than maybe in the moment.
Meanwhile, the fire department says a team of professional climbers is on the way to retrieve the balloon. The Federal Aviation Administration is also expected to investigate. For CBS 19, I'm Nayeli Carrillo.
A Gregg County jury has decided probation, not prison, for 2 former Longview ISD leaders convicted of abusing students with disabilities. A Gregg County jury found Cassandra James and Linda Lister guilty of injury to a child following a 3-day trial. Jurors deliberated about 90 minutes before returning their verdicts. Instead of prison, both women were sentenced to 10 years of probation and ordered to pay $10,000 fines. Lister will also be required to serve jail time as part of her probation, with up to 180 days possible, though the exact length has not yet been determined. The charges stem from allegations involving students inside a life skills classroom at J.L. Everhart Elementary School. James and Lister are 2 of 6 former Longview ISD employees arrested in the case. And more than just burgers were on the menu in Mineola. One local restaurant dished out 100 free meals, serving up thanks to the community they call home. Zool, owner of Zool's Smash Burgers, says opening his own restaurant had always been a dream, one that became a reality just 3 months ago. Despite normally being closed on Sundays, Zool decided to open the doors for a special reason, giving away free burgers to the community. Burgers his sons proudly say are the best in town.
Since we were kids, he's always had like a passion to cook. And so once they sold their business, he was just sitting at home all day and he just wanted to do something. So he pursued his dreams, and now he's here. As a religious person, he's always giving out. He wants to look out for the community. That's just something as Muslims that we believe in. And so we're just hoping you to donate.
They say while this was their first charity event, it certainly won't be their last. That's a wrap on your East Texas News headlines. I'm Robert De La Garza.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Churchwell in Corpus Christi, and here's a look at some of what's happening in South Texas. A sobering milestone in Brooks County, where authorities say the number of migrant remains recovered over the years has reached a heartbreaking benchmark. Michael Gibson takes us into the terrain with a deputy known as the Bone Collector.
We're out here today in Brooks County with Don White, the Bone Collector. We're here off of 285 on this ranch land just west of Falfurrias. And it's here that over the years he's found a number of human remains, and recently here in Brooks County he found the remains of number 1,000 since 2009.
The brush country is bone dry, and White says that actually works in his favor. With less vegetation on the ground, it's easier to spot anything that doesn't belong.
It's sad that we are this dry, but it's helpful to me. So I'm probably the only person in the county that is actually excited about being dry.
That dryness helped him quickly spot items scattered across the ranch land, signs that migrants had recently passed through. His canine partner, Socks, also had an easier time navigating the brittle brush, moving from one discovery to the next.
Backpacks, we always check to see if there's any identification in it to give us an idea if somebody is down somewhere. It's a pair of pants, more clothing. It's actually pretty normal stuff. They're getting rid of what they won't need in their next stage of travel.
We found plenty of clothing left behind, including this shirt that appeared to belong to a woman. The only clue to where she may have started her journey, a tag showing it was made in Guatemala. Now, many other migrants who cross through Brooks County come from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Mexico. And recently, one of White's discoveries marked a grim milestone. The remains he located pushed the total number recovered here since 2009 to 1,000, a statistic tracked by the Sheriff's Department.
Hit the magic 1,000, which it's a rather sad number, but we are working. We are trying to recover as many as we possibly can, then start the identification process and send them on home.
White did not find any human remains on this day, but in what's known as the Wild Horse Desert, he says it's never a matter of if, only when. Now, at one of the migrant campsites, we came across a child's backpack. White said that it's not necessarily a sign of tragedy, but of hope. It can mean a family made it through this stretch alive. Still, he knows there are even more souls waiting to be found out here in the brush. From Brooks County with the Bone Collector, I'm Michael Gibson, 3 News.
Some upgrades could be on the way to Corpus Christi Airport thanks to a potential $100,000 grant from TxDOT. It's part of an annual FAA block grant program. The funding would go toward new transformers for airfield lighting to help with visibility for pilots during nighttime operations. The measure will head to City Council for final approval. Airport leaders say federal dollars like these are critical to keeping air travel safe and up to date.
We have a team that's looking for notice of funding operations both from the FAA, the Department of Transportation, and even through TxDOT. Any opportunity we can to help support us here at the airport for the funding for our projects that ensure the safety and security of the travelers, we're always looking for those opportunities.
If approved, the grant could land at CCIA as early as this summer. And that is a quick look at some of what's happening here in South Texas.
Texas News Now is sponsored by Germania Insurance.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at germaniainsurance.com.